You ever get one of those texts that changes your whole sense of reality? Not in the dramatic, movie trailer kind of way. No music swells. No lightning crackles outside your window. Just a small vibration on the nightstand, a soft glow on your phone screen, and the beginning of a fracture. It was a Tuesday night. I remember because I was sitting on the couch half watching a documentary about the migration patterns of whales. Nora was upstairs in the bath. Scented candles, spa playlist, her usual wind-down routine. I could hear the water running and her occasional humming. It used to make me feel at peace, that sound, that hum. My phone buzzed. A message from Becca, Nora's cousin. We weren't close, Becca and I. She was one of those family members you only see during holidays, weddings, or the occasional backyard barbecue. She always had a drink in hand and a filter over her words, the kind of woman who smiled while silently judging. Still, she was blood, and over the years, she'd warmed up to me in that "you're tolerable because Nora loves you" sort of way. But that night, the message she sent wasn't casual. No hey or emojis. Just 4 screenshots. No context. At first, I thought maybe she sent them by accident. I even started typing, "Hey, I think you sent this to the wrong person," but before I hit send, I tapped the first image. Then the second. Then all of them in quick succession. And just like that, the room went quiet. Even the TV disappeared into the background. The screenshots were from a group chat, a bunch of people I didn't recognize, and one very familiar name. Nora. At the top of the messages was the chat title, "Girls Who Get It." Charming. Nora's name came up often, her messages peppered with laughing emojis and brutally honest takes that made my stomach sink. One message from her read, Josh is sweet. He's stable. If plan A doesn't work out with Brandon, I'll still have a husband. I'll be fine either way. I stared at it. Read it again. Then again. My name. My actual name. Sweet. Stable. And then, plan B. It didn't feel like reading a betrayal. It felt like walking in on one. That kind of intimacy, that kind of cruelty, preserved forever in blue and gray message bubbles. Another message followed. Honestly, it's kind of nice knowing someone will always be there even if the spark's not there. Brandon's chaotic but exciting. Josh is safe. Safe. God, the way she used that word like it was a consolation prize. The final message in the screenshots was the one that lingered longest. It was Becca herself, replying in the thread, saying, "Nora, you can't treat people like placeholders. That man would literally take a bullet for you. Don't be a monster." And Nora's reply? "Oh, please. He's lucky to have me. I could do so much better." I didn't realize my hands had gone numb until I dropped the phone. I sat there in silence for maybe 10 minutes, just staring at the wall. There wasn't any anger at first. No rage or heartbreak. Just this slow-moving fog settling over me, heavy and quiet. I tried to convince myself maybe it was old. Maybe she meant it differently. Maybe it was sarcasm or inside jokes I wasn't in on. But I knew better. I remembered all the small things that hadn't added up. All the weekends, she said she needed space to reconnect with herself. The new lingerie I never saw her wear around me. The way she'd once come back from a solo trip, glowing with a sunburn I knew she hadn't gotten alone. There had always been little flags, but I'd folded them into excuses. I loved her too much. I trusted her too deeply. I didn't want to become that guy, suspicious, paranoid, controlling. So I turned my gut instincts into silence. That night, I didn't confront her. I heard the bath drain upstairs, her footsteps padding softly across the hardwood, the blow dryer humming to life. I stayed on the couch, motionless. Becca hadn't sent a follow-up. No explanation. No apology. Just dropped the truth in my lap like a live grenade and walked away. And the thing is, a part of me was grateful. Because sometimes, we need someone else to hold up a mirror. Even if it's messy, even if it cuts. I finally stood up and walked to the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water, hands still trembling slightly. My reflection in the microwave door looked hollow. Not broken, not yet, just shaken. Like a man who'd been living in someone else's dream and just woke up. Nora came downstairs 20 minutes later in her robe, towel-dried hair, skin glowing from whatever product she always used. She smiled at me. "Whatcha watching?" she asked, curling up beside me like nothing had changed. And God help me, I smiled back. Just a small, mechanical twitch of the lips. My voice came out quiet, but even. Nothing important. Because in that moment, I knew I needed time. Not revenge. Not confrontation. Not yet. I needed space to process what I'd just seen, to figure out whether I was a man living in denial or a man finally waking up to the fact that the woman he loved saw him as a backup plan. Either way, everything was different now, and she didn't even know it yet. The days that followed were some of the strangest of my life. Nora was her usual self, maybe even warmer than usual. She'd kiss my cheek before heading off to work, send me memes during the day, playfully complain about her coworkers when she got home. If there was any guilt behind her eyes, she hid it well. I didn't bring it up. Not yet. Some people might wonder how I could hold it in, how I could eat dinner across from her, hold her hand during movie night, even make love to her once in that strange, dazed interim. But here's the truth most don't talk about. When you find out the person you love doesn't love you the same way, your first reaction isn't always fury. Sometimes it's denial. Sometimes it's preservation, like your heart is scrambling to pretend it imagined everything just to delay the crash. But beneath that quiet panic, a new part of me started to wake up. A colder part. Focused. Intentional. The first thing I did was back up the screenshots. Save them to a cloud folder she didn't know existed. I created a new email account, sent them to myself, labeled it plainly, Truth. Then, I called in a favor from a friend I hadn't spoken to in years, Davis. We used to work together in IT consulting before he pivoted into private digital security. I didn't give him full context. Just said I needed to trace some social media data, recover deleted messages, look into any burner accounts tied to a few phone numbers. He didn't ask questions. Davis was one of those guys who understood the unspoken. Next, I started paying more attention to her phone. Not in a creepy way, I didn't go through it. But I noticed how she kept it face down more often now. How she took it into the bathroom, even during quick trips. I started memorizing when her screen would light up, what names flashed for just a second. Most were innocuous. A few weren't. Brandon came up twice in a single day. Once in the morning. Once again around 10 p.m. That name. Brandon. I remembered it from the texts. If plan A doesn't work out with Brandon. I wasn't a violent man. Never had been. But just hearing that name in my head made my jaw clench, my hands curl into fists when no one was looking. He was real. He wasn't just some fantasy in a group chat. He existed, and he was closer than I realized. 2 weeks passed before I heard from Becca again. It came as a voicemail. Short. Rushed. Her voice was low, like she was afraid someone might overhear her. Josh, I know I messed up sending those, but I couldn't stay quiet anymore. She's not who you think. You deserve better. I'm sorry. Just be careful. That was it. Be careful. It almost sounded like a warning. It gave me a chill I couldn't quite place, like I'd stepped too deep into something that wasn't just personal anymore. Something calculated. That night, Nora came home late. Said she was stuck at work, some last-minute deadline. She smelled like a different perfume, something floral and sharp. I didn't comment on it. Just smiled, nodded, offered her leftovers I'd kept warm in the oven. She kissed my cheek and said, "You're too good to me." And that sentence? That damn sentence just about broke me. Because I realized, in that moment, she wasn't saying it out of love. She was saying it like she knew. Like she was aware of exactly how much I gave, how much I forgave, how deeply I loved, and how easy it was to manipulate that. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I told my manager I needed personal time, maybe a week or two. Thankfully, I had vacation days saved up, and I was one of those quiet employees who never stirred drama. No one asked questions. I used those days to go quiet. I started collecting documents, bank statements, joint account records, insurance details, even receipts from the past year. I noticed new patterns. Withdrawals I hadn't made. Charges I couldn't trace. She'd been slowly funneling money into a separate account. Not large amounts, just small enough to slip beneath suspicion. I began mapping it all out, like a puzzle, each piece clicking into place until a picture emerged. And the picture was ugly. She was planning something, a future that didn't involve me. Maybe not immediately, maybe not even this year. But it was coming. I could feel it. I started sleeping less, eating less. Not because I was spiraling. No, not that. I was clear-headed, more than I'd been in years. But clarity has a weight to it. And carrying it alone, it wears on you. One night, while she slept, I sat in the kitchen and wrote something in my journal. I hadn't written in it since we got married. It read, "She's waiting to leave me, but she doesn't know I've already left her in my heart." What's left now isn't love. It's the memory of it. And even that's starting to fade. I didn't cry. Not yet. But I could feel the storm coming. And I knew. Next time she smiled at me, I wouldn't be able to smile back. Not without breaking something inside me. It happened on a Sunday morning. Not by design. I hadn't planned for it, not really. But I'd reached a point where pretending, smiling through the ache, pretending not to know, was starting to feel like lying to myself. Nora was making pancakes. That small domestic detail might seem trivial, but it's the kind of memory that stays with you when your world shifts. The sizzle of batter on the pan, the scent of syrup warming on the stovetop, the hum of a woman who believed she had you wrapped tight around her finger. I sat at the table with my coffee, hands around the mug more for grounding than for warmth. She turned to me, spatula in hand, and said with a grin, "You've been quiet lately. Everything okay?" That was it. That was the line. Soft. Simple. But it opened the door. I looked at her, really looked. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't see the woman I proposed to on a snowy rooftop in Vermont. I didn't see the woman I held when her father passed, or the one who danced barefoot in our living room after we signed the mortgage. I saw a stranger who had been holding a knife behind her back. "I need to ask you something," I said calmly. She tilted her head, still smiling. "Sure. What's up?" "Who's Brandon?" The smile died instantly. Her body stilled, just for a fraction of a second, but it was enough. That micro-flinch, the way her eyes darted for just a blink before she caught herself. It was all the confirmation I needed. "What kind of question is that?" she asked, turning back to the stove too quickly. "He's just a friend. From work." "Friend," I repeated, setting my mug down. "Like the kind you make contingency plans with, in case your husband gets boring?" Silence. Utter, awful silence. She didn't turn around. Just stood there, staring at the pan, spatula frozen in the air. "How do you know that name?" she finally whispered. I didn't answer right away. I stood, walked over, and gently took the spatula from her hand. Set it down. Then I stepped back and pulled out my phone. Opened the folder. The one labeled Truth. I placed it on the counter between us, screen facing up. She didn't touch it. She just stared, reading each message with slow, sinking realization. When she reached the last one, the one where she said she could do so much better than me, her hand trembled. "Becca sent those?" she asked, voice flat. "She did," I said. "I think she wanted me to know what I was actually married to." She swallowed hard. "I didn't mean it like that." I gave a small, humorless laugh. "You meant it exactly like that. And you know what? That's what hurts the most. That deep down, you don't think you did anything wrong. You had a backup plan. You were playing both sides." She stepped toward me then, reaching out. "Josh." I took a step back. Her hand froze midair. "You don't get to comfort me right now," I said, my voice quieter than I expected. "You don't get to rewrite this into a misunderstanding." "Please," she said, voice cracking. I was scared. Things got hard. "You were distant. And you were dishonest," I interrupted. "I worked hard to build a life with you, Nora. I bent over backwards for this marriage. And the whole time, I was your safety net in case the guy who gave you butterflies didn't want to settle down." Tears welled in her eyes then. Maybe real, maybe not. I honestly didn't know anymore. I walked past her, went upstairs, and came down with a small duffel bag. She followed me. "Where are you going?" "For now," I said, not stopping. "Out. I need space. And you need time to sit with what you've done." "Josh, please don't go like this. We can fix this." I was stupid, but it didn't mean anything. I turned at the door. "It meant everything, Nora. Not because of Brandon, but because you never saw me as someone to love, just someone to fall back on. And I can't live like that anymore." The door closed behind me with a soft click. It's been 6 months since that morning. We're not divorced. Not yet. But the papers are in progress. She tried, for a while, to win me back. Messages. Apologies. Voicemails full of tears and reasons and late-night regret. But nothing ever addressed the root of it. That quiet, cruel calculation she made when she decided I was good enough to keep, but not enough to truly choose. I moved into a small apartment across town. It's quiet. I have a view of the river. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. There's a strange peace in solitude, even when it's born from betrayal. I think a part of me still loves her. Or maybe I love who I thought she was. But every time I think about going back, I read those screenshots again. And I remember the look in her eyes when she got caught. Not heartbreak. Not sorrow. Just panic. Like her plans had collapsed too soon. I was her plan B. But I've since learned something powerful. I'd rather be alone by choice than with someone who only stays by convenience. She made her plan. Now I'm making mine. And this time, I'm choosing me first.